Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer, and this is a special session where we're going to have a guest host talk to our esteemed guest, film actor, author. I don't know, I can give any other motivational speaker, Sri Anupam Kher ji. Anupam ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Anupam ji, today Suhel Seth will be the guest host who will be talking to you, and it is my honor and pleasure to have you on our platform again, Suhel. Suhel, please go ahead and take over this conversation from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sri. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be on a PGurus platform, given its enormous reach and the cerebral engagement it has with its viewers and its subscribers. And when we talk about cerebral and the brain, what is very interesting is that my dear friend Anupam has penned yet another book. Most people were either busy ordering vegetables, putting on weight, killing each other, divorcing, doing all kinds of things. Anupam wrote a book. He got himself tested. He had COVID in the family. He flew down from New York, all of that. How do you get the kind of energy you do? What is your secret sauce? Where are these drugs available? Mujhe bhi drugs do, kuch to karo. It is unbelievable, Anupam, this story that you have penned. It is unbelievable and very interesting.
Thank you, Suhel. Thank you, P. Guru, for having me on this platform. First of all, I'm really feeling important today because you are in conversation with me. I have great regard for your knowledge, for you, the kind of person you are. We have met so many times. We have exchanged thought processes. We have met in flights or in New York. So I feel really privileged that we are in conversation. I'm in conversation with you. As far as energy is concerned, my grandfather used to say something very interesting. A lot of time, my grandfather and my father will figure in this conversation because I've learned so much from them. He used to say a busy man has time for everything. And that's exactly what I live life. I'm very passionate about life. I don't have the negative thoughts, so that takes away most of the energy. So I don't have time to sort of, I love gossip, but I don't have the time to waste energy on anything, something like that. I'm competing with myself. My conversation with myself tells me that, oh, this can be done, and I'm not scared of failure. Because I'm not scared of failure, I can attempt lots of things. At a very young age, my father told me that failure is an event, never a person.
Superb.
So that is how he dealt with me. He was just a clerk in the forest department, but he was extraordinary in his very native wisdom. He will say things. I must share it with you that when I was in 9th standard, we had to take this report card to our parents. They had to sign it so that we can give it back. And it was a very, for students who were not doing well in studies, that was a very difficult moment. My mother was very strict at that time. So I took it to my father. My father saw my report card. He said, you are 59th in the class? I said, yes. He said, how many students are there? I said, 60. So I thought now he is going to give me a lecture or maybe a little bit of chapat also, but he thought for a little time. And then he said, you know, ek baat batao bittu, a person who comes first in any field has this tension that he has to come first every time. Even if he comes second, he thinks it's a failure on his part. But a person who comes 59th can always come 48th, 36th, 24th, 19th. Make sure that next time you come 48th. So when a 15-year-old boy's father takes away the fear of failure, then the world is all yours. You can all try and maximum fail. A lot of people ask me how can you have done 517 films? How can you be doing chairman of Film Institute, National School of Drama, write a book, go there? I am doing something which I love. And when you do something which you love, you don't get tired. अब आप मुझे स्टील प्लांट में भेज दो, आप मुझे कहीं कपड़े की दुकान पे भेज दो, मेरा इंटरेस्ट नहीं है उसमें, मैं थक जाऊंगा. या मुझे आप किसी भी ब्यूरोक्रेटिक जॉब में भेज दो. ये सब तो जिंदगी से जुड़ी हुई हैं. And this book is not that I have not quoted Socrates or Jean-Paul Sartre or Lorca. I have written about what I went through. And when you are telling the truth, you don't have to remember it. You just have to pen it
That is
down.
what my father used to tell me. Yep.
Really? Yeah. So
But tell
that's
me,
it.
it's very interesting, very, very interesting, because having known you for so long, I saw a very different side of yours in this book. And let me explain why. In all your other work, it has been dominated by your passion for your profession. What people must see, if they haven't already seen it, is your videos of Dulari Rocks. It shows a very rare side of a relationship between a son and a mother. और जो अपनी माँ का नहीं है या अपने परिवार का नहीं है, वो किसी का नहीं है. So it's a very rare side. What this book showed me from start to finish, and it took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to finish the book, but it gave me a very deep insight that the pandemic actually had you worried, not from a negative point of view. You began to think of all the things that you hadn't thought of. And you also mentioned it in your book, ki bhai, start living life again. You mentioned Davies, the Welsh poet. That flight that you took from New York, and you said that normally, you're very this thing, relax. What did you go through as a human being? Forget Anupam Kher. There was a human being in you who had become restless, who had become worried for the world. So ye hua kya?
So your first sentence in this questionnaire that I saw you saw a very different side of me. I saw a very different side of myself. In these 36 years, I have never taken a holiday.
You mentioned that in the book, correct?
Yes, never taken holiday because I love working and because I have gone through the humiliation and lack of dignity of 3 years when I was looking for work in Mumbai, when I was sleeping on the platform, when I was a gold medalist from drama school, but I was not getting work. And then when I started getting work, I said, "Main rukunga hi nahi kabhi." And I really enjoyed it. But what happened in New York, that when we had to stop shooting, we were shooting in a Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn, and we had this murmurs that suddenly the atmosphere in the shooting became a little loaded. That there was a fear while we were doing scenes. There was inherent fear. So much so that the producer said, "I think we need to can this and we will not do 22 episodes. We'll just finish at 19 episodes." Before that, episode 18 of season 2 was about pandemic. And
Correct.
pandemic had not been announced at that time. It was just then, and I was the victim of that pandemic. My character, Dr. Kapoor, was the victim of that pandemic.
Kapoor.
Yes. So I got this call from my relatives, my father, and my mother, and Suhel Kapoor kept telling me, "Chal aaja, jaldi aaja wahan se." And then I called up the council journal. He said, "Kal ek flight hai, parson, aap nikal jaiye yahan se, flights band ho rahi hai." So on the 20th of March, 19th or 20th of March, I took a flight. When I reached Newark airport, it looked like, oh my God, everybody was huddled. I have gone through the 65 war or 71 war or these wars that I have, 62 war, I was a kid, etc. तो उसमें एक silent energy होती थी, not an energy, silent एक feeling होती थी, कुछ गड़बड़ हो रही है. Or fear is unknown. At least in wars, you know who are the enemies. In
Correct.
this, we did not know the enemy. We did not know the enemy at all. And everybody is there. And I usually, when I go to Air India counter, I'm met with a great amount of enthusiasm. I take pictures with everybody, etc. There was nothing of that sort happening. And there was no first class lounge. So I had to sit in a coffee shop, and yet there were not many people coming to take a picture because I had a mask and they had a mask. It was something I had never experienced. And then this 15 hour journey from Newark to Mumbai was silent. I was the only person in my class, and I was throughout wearing this, and there was pin drop silence in the flight. There was no movement, and these air hostesses and pursers were moving with this PPT kits. I thought I was in a movie set of a disaster movie. Worst was when I reached Mumbai and I saw Mumbai airport. There was nobody except for us who were coming out of the aircraft. And then there was
no Herman, but only the two drivers. Even Herman didn't make it.
Even my manager, my CEO, who always comes to pick me up, was not there. And even Dattu, who is my chief assistant for the last 36 years, he usually comes and unpacks my this thing. He told me, "Sir, मैं घर जाऊँ, मेरा आपके यहाँ जाने का दिल नहीं कर रहा है." It's unheard of that he will ever say that. And then when I drove from airport to my place, I felt I'm in a Will Smith film called I Am Legend, which is of a deserted streets. Nobody is there, and this Will Smith is alone with his dog, and nobody, and my driver is not talking. We are talking, and Anil Kapoor's house is just before my house. Whenever I come from abroad, I first go to his house, give him a hug, and then go to my house. So he sent me a message, 14 दिन बाद
अंदर
मिलेंगे.
मत आना.
अंदर
हाँ.
14 दिन बाद मिलेंगे. और मैं पहुंचा तो नीचे जो दो मेरे जो वर्कर्स थे वो आए, हाउस हेल्प्स, वो भी आए और सामान ले लिया. कोई किसी की स्माइल नजर ही नहीं आ रही थी, और सबकी आंखों में, बिकॉज यहाँ तक चेहरा ढका हुआ था, सबकी आंखों में देयर वाज अ फियर इन देयर आईज. आई कुड नॉट सी एनी वार्मथ. Sikandar, my son, opened the door and put his arm out and he said, "Dad,
Yes,
thank you."
you mentioned that he elbow bumped you.
Yes. And so it was, I could not go and see my mother, who was just 1 kilometer away. I had never experienced something like this. And first thing that happened was fear. I was fearful. I was fearful of what is happening, of the uncertainty, of insecurity. So I tried to sleep. I could not sleep. Next morning, again I'm looking out of the place. I'm calling me up, and then I came across a photograph of my 10th standard, where 57 students of our school, DAV school, were standing and taking a picture. So उसमें एक लड़का था, अनिल दत्ता. वो फर्स्ट आता था, मैं लास्ट आता था, तो मेरे को ज्यादा ध्यान नहीं देता था. तो I called him up. And then slowly, I started calling up various people in that photograph. And then next morning, first time in my life, I heard chirping of birds. And a constant cuckoo, कोयल बोल रही थी. ये मैंने बॉम्बे में कभी महसूस ही नहीं किया था. मैंने
ध्यान ही नहीं दिया ना. आप ध्यान नहीं दिए.
सुनाई नहीं देता था ना. नीचे ट्रैफिक, ऑटो रिक्शा, कारें, ये सब लोग एंड हॉकर्स वगैरह सब घूमते थे. अब मैंने कहा कि अगर मैं इसी फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड में रहूंगा तो मैं तो पता नहीं कितने दिन मैं तो बर्बाद हो जाऊंगा. और दूसरी बात, मैंने छुट्टी ली नहीं थी कभी, और इसका कोई अंत नहीं था. Then I started, when I'm pushed to a wall, or when I'm go down, then our only way is to come up. Then I said, now how do I feel positive about it? Then I started making those videos of Bittu and Anupam.
Correct.
I started thinking, how do I do? Then the first time this urge came to me that I must pen down whatever I am feeling. So I called up my publisher, my friend Ashok Chopra of Hay House, and I said, Ashok, I want to write this book. He was surprised because we had just finished my autobiography 1 year back. He said, लिखना चाहते हो क्या लिखना चाहते हो? मैंने कहा मुझे पता नहीं है, मगर मैं लिखना चाहता हूँ about pandemic and about my experience. And that's how it started. Because when I don't remember my lines of my cinema, of my films or theater, I write them down. Because somehow the process of writing down makes me remember my long paragraphs of my acting pieces.
But I want to pause you for a minute. You said something very interesting just now. The fear that you experienced when you entered your home, was this a very different kind of fear than the fear you experienced when you sat or slept on a platform, didn't know about where the next meal would come from? What is the difference, if any, between these two fears?
There is no comparison. At that time, I was ready to conquer the world. I knew I will.
Did you feel defeated here by circumstances?
No. The fear was of unknown. कि ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? Unknown का जो fear होता है वो बहुत dangerous होता है, वो बहुत fearful होता है. ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? पूरा वर्ल्ड में ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? हमने कभी सोचा ही नहीं था. वो 1918 में जो फ्लू हुआ था, इसके बाद में पढ़ा. मैंने पेंडेमिक वर्ड ही मैंने जो है वो मैंने सुना पहली बार इन अमेरिका. मुझे पेंडेमिक का वर्ड नहीं पता था, एपिडेमिक पता था. मैं हिंदी मीडियम स्कूल से हूँ, मुझे ज्यादा पता नहीं है अंग्रेजी के वर्ड्स. तो ये फियर बहुत अलग था. दिस फियर वाज रनिंग इन माय बोन्स. दिस फियर वाज कि व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, व्हाई इज, हाउ कैन इट बी that nobody is on the, and then Mumbai is silent, then I think there is something really serious.
Now, I know Anil Kapoor pretty well. and I know the relationship that you and Anil share is of a different order. Did you for a moment feel कि यार मेरा दोस्त मुझे नहीं मिलना चाहता for 14 days?
I felt bad. I told him also. I usually use his gym. So I told him, I said, Anil, can I use your gym? He said, यार रहने देते हैं यार. तो पहले तो मुझे गुस्सा आया, फिर मुझे लगा कि अगर ये मुझे रहने देते बोल रहा है, that means there is something really serious about going on about it. क्योंकि वो नहीं बोलेगा. मैं उसके घर पे, मैं तो सुनीता उसकी वाइफ को बोलता हूँ कि आप राशन कार्ड में मेरा भी नाम लिखवा लीजिए, because मैं
I know,
उसके घर
and
पे,
you mentioned this the Friday evenings that Ria and
Yes.
Sunita and Anil would cook for you. You have mentioned this in the
So
book.
he said, मैं तेरे को weights भेज देता हूँ अपने, but I think you need to do it there at least for 14 days. And then till today I've not gone. That's a separate issue, because I brought some weights in my house, etc. But then he came. He felt bad. Then he came down and he sang a song.
I know you uploaded it also.
Yeah, तेरे घर के सामने. फिर मुझे सुकून मिला जब मैं लोगों से बातचीत करता था फोन पे. और कितनी बातचीत कर सके, सबके अपने अपनी परेशानियां, सबके अपने अपने.
पर ये एक बात है. I want to just stop. ये DAV school, you started getting in touch with all these people.
Yes. Now Prakash Parihar.
Was it a desire to connect, or was it a fear कि यार अगर जिंदगी से हाथ धो बैठे हो, तो I will always have the regret that I never talked to some of my friends?
No,
what
that fear came later. So I just wanted to. I also over a period of time, I think when you cross your 60s, you feel like touching base with your. You want to go back to your Simla, to Srinagar.
Very right.
You know, you have this. You can smell your childhood smelling, feelings. You can see.
वो कुल्हड़ की चाय, वो आलू की टिक्की.
हाँ. Yes, ये जो एक खास किस्म की डेजा वू की लाइटिंग होती है, जैसे पेड़ों पर चलती है, वो था. तो मुझे लगा यार मैं इनसे मिलना चाहता हूँ. जो हम बेवकूफानी बातें करते हैं स्कूल के क्लास फेलो के साथ. There is no intellectual conversation yet started, and then the burden of knowledge starts making you talk about intelligent things. So I said, let me call up Anil Datta, and he was very surprised. He lives in Solan now. He's retired. एंड मैं उसको बोलता था, मैंने कहा यार तू मुझे कभी अपनी क्लास में बैठने नहीं देता था अपने साथ में, क्योंकि तुझे लगता था मैं तो सबसे लास्ट आता था. एंड देन ही वाज वेरी स्वीट. ही हैव बीन फॉलोइंग यू. देन अनदर फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन, मनिंदर सिंह, ही लिव्स इन दिल्ली. उससे बात की. ना प्रकाश परिहार, बचपन के दोस्तों को हम पूरे फुल नेम से जानते हैं.
करेक्ट.
राजीव शर्मा, अनिल शर्मा, ये सब इस तरह सबको मैंने काफी लोगों को फोन किया. गुरिंदर सिंह को मैंने फोन किया और बड़े हमने बातें की. Then they had opened this जो मैंने कभी ध्यान ही नहीं दिया था. They had this website where old students are coming together. So one day I had joined that WhatsApp group, and everybody started 2 years back tagging me, and I said मेरे पास तो इतना टाइम नहीं मुझे अंग्रेजी की डायलॉग याद करने. But I had this urge to meet it. It was not out of fear. It was out of wanting to have a sense of belonging. What I discovered that in this pandemic we only needed 3 things initially. एक तो everybody wanted to get back to their families, their close ones, parents, husband, wife, grandparents, etc., etc. Second thing, we needed essential commodities कि खाना मिल जाए, चाय मिल जाए, राइस मिल जाए. तीसरा, वाईफाई चलना चाहिए.
करेक्ट.
हमारी जरूरतें सिर्फ इतनी ही हो गई कि यार घर वाले साथ में हो, खाना मिले और वाईफाई चले ताकि दुनिया के साथ हमारा कनेक्शन रहे. तो फिर मुझे लगा कि हम किसके पीछे दौड़ रहे थे इतने दिनों तक, किस चीज के पीछे भाग रहे थे. Then I started recording things in my dictaphone. That's how I started writing. मैं रात को 4 बजे उठ जाता था. मेरे को लगता था कि सडन नीड होती थी बोलने की, तो मैं बोलता था. कभी दोपहर को 3 बजे. ऐसा नहीं था कि अब मुझे लिखना है 11 से लेकर 1 बजे तक लिखना है. ऐसा मैं हो ही नहीं सकता. I'm by profession I'm not an author. I am an accidental author because I wanted to be called actor, author, motivational speaker. तो ऑथर मेरे साथ जुड़ा नहीं था. वो मेरी किताब जो थी, ये वाली किताब, द बेस्ट थिंग अबाउट यू इज यू, ये 2000 में निकल पड़ी. इनफैक्ट जब ये बेस्ट सेलर हुई, माय फादर वाज अलाइव एट दैट टाइम. मैं उनके पास लेके गया, ये स्टिकर लगा हुआ था. मैंने कहा पापा मेरी अंग्रेजी की किताब बेस्ट सेलर हो गई है. तो उन्होंने जानते क्या कहा? उन्होंने कहा अल्लाह मेहरबान तो गधेड़ा पहलवान. I don't know why. I know why he said that. But fear was coming back to fear was inbuilt. एक unknown चीज की situation थी. You see, जैसे थिएटर में जाने से पहले, जब स्टेज पर जाने से पहले हमें पता नहीं होता कि ऑडियंस कैसी है.
Correct. And we peep from the curtain while the
Yes.
audience is sitting कि कितने लोग आए हैं, क्या भरा हुआ है कि नहीं.
Yes. बट उसके लिए आप वो शुरू का फियर होता है कि ये देखा आपने, अच्छा पूरा हॉल भरा हुआ है, and then you shut your eyes, then you know your lines and you walk onto the stage and you are the king.
Like an emperor, correct.
इसमें किंग की फीलिंग नहीं थी, इसमें कोई ऐसी फीलिंग नहीं थी कुछ ऐसा करूंगा तो कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा. Yes, that is why when this whole thing started, that जो ये जनता कर्फ्यू लगा था, I think that was a very great thing to have done, where Mr. Modi asked us that हम आए, थालियां बजाएं या हम मोमबत्ती जलाएं, because a sense of togetherness आई.
You know, a lot of people said, ki, was that a gimmick by the Prime Minister? I responded, I said, I really don't care whether it was a gimmick. What it did do,
No.
because, you know, I was not a believer in that, Anupam. जब मैं balcony पे गया, मेरी wife थी, मेरी बच्ची थी, मेरी माँ थी. When we went, we saw everyone clanging the thalis.
Exactly.
So I said, उन्होंने पता है एक काम किया है. He has made India from country into family. They are united around this issue.
बिल्कुल. और एक फैमिली के बुजुर्ग की तरह उन्होंने बिहेव किया. अभी मैं चाहता हूँ आप सब लोग एक करें. और बिना हिजो हिज्जत के हमने वो किया जो हमारे फैमिली के दादाजी करते थे कि भाई मैं चाहता हूं आप ये करें, तो कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं होता था, बट एक करने के बाद एक अच्छी फीलिंग होती थी. सो आई यूज्ड टू लुक फॉरवर्ड टू दोज काइंड्स ऑफ सिचुएशंस. आई यूज्ड टू लुक फॉरवर्ड टू सैल्यूटिंग द कोरोना वॉरियर्स. आई यूज्ड टू लुक फॉरवर्ड टू, मतलब मैंने वीडियो बनाया जब सुबह सुबह वो सफाई करने वाले आते थे. आई स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग टू देम. We had never noticed those people.
No, even in your book, you praise Iqbal Chahal
Yes.
of the BNC and you say the work that he had done.
Yes,
But tell
amazing.
me, because of time issues, I'm just going to, because we have about 15 minutes more, I want to ask a couple of things because some things were really close to your bone. I liked and I loved the way you defined when COVID happened to the family. And when your mother was taken, and you've been very kind and generous in your praise for the Kokila Ben Ambani Hospital people, and you've talked about the fact that you rushed up, and you used a phrase from an old Hindi film, which I will let you tell people because you'll say it better than I do.
But remind me that.
Huh?
Remind me, what was the phrase?
अरे जो आपने अपनी माँ को बोला कि नमस्ते समथिंग, और वो जो फिल्म का है यार, एक फिल्म का फ्रेज है, नमस्ते शेट्टी और नमस्ते समथिंग.
Yes.
My whole thing was, when it happened close to your house, when it happened to the family, what were the feelings that were going on in your head at that time?
It happened very suddenly. We had taken our mother out for the first time in 8 months for an outing. Also on a pretext that she had a cyst here near her kidney.
Correct, which you said was benign.
Which was benign. But हम लेके गए थे कि चलो यार बाहर नहीं गई, दोनों बेटे साथ में लेके जाते. वहां जब उन्होंने MRI किया तो बोले ये तो benign है मगर इनको तो कोविड है. We were not prepared for it at all. तो एकदम अजीब सा महसूस हुआ. तो मैंने राजू का, हम दोनों साथ में हैं, इमीडिएटली हमको भी कराना चाहिए. We did not tell our mother what is there. जब राजू ने कराया तो उसका पॉजिटिव आया, मैंने कराया तो मैं नेगेटिव आया. तो immediately I had a sense of guilt. Now the problem was, I said, Raju, get your wife and your other family members also done. And the problem was, when I called up my family doctor Agarwal, he said, इनको सीधा आप कोकिला बेन hospital ले लो. Now my mother, after 8 months, have come out to see the streets, etc., and I have to tell her, Mom, you are not going back home. We are taking you to the hospital. She's not even carrying anything. Even her phone is not with her, because she is with her two most secure people in her world, both the sons. And she's telling me, मुझे hospital क्यों जाना? मैंने कहा नहीं, वो कुछ थोड़ा सा complication आई है तो आपको ले जाते हैं. तो कहती राजू क्यों नहीं?
बोला भी नहीं कोविड के बारे में, even after she only went. Correct.
और राजू कहती राजू क्यों नहीं आ रहा फिर? मैंने कहा नहीं, राजू को कुछ काम. कहता ऐसा क्या काम है? और फिर वहां पता लगा हॉस्पिटल में कि आप नीचे इमरजेंसी रूम में छोड़ के जाना है, ऊपर नहीं ले जा सकते हैं. And my heart and my mother, all mothers in fact, not my mother, all mothers have this amazing capability of making their children feel nothing to worry. मैं ठीक हूँ, उत्तर मैं ठीक हूँ, कोई गल नहीं. I don't know, and that can be a killer sometimes, because when they
Very right.
when you see their sense of understanding, even at this grave situation, your heart goes out. And she also felt कि मेरा बेटा तो अनुपम खेर है, वो तो सब कुछ कर सकता है, जो कि मैंने पास्ट में किया, उसने जो मांगा मैंने दिया है. मगर इस सिचुएशन में I was helpless. I could not go up with her. So that phase and the thought processes of that whole thing was very, very frightening. Then I made videos with everybody and sent it to her. But and then once I was sitting down and there was this lady whose husband was there, and she said, हमने आपकी मदर के वीडियो देखे, उनको कुछ नहीं होगा. You get very moved by these statements at this situation, that they are there for their own tragedy, but they did not forget to tell me that don't worry, nothing will happen to her.
But that's what I want to ask you, and as we wind down this particular conversation, I have seen a new India. I mean, there are protests, there are 100 things going on. That's political. I'm not bothered about that much. But I have seen an India that I never imagined I would see. I've seen an India full of hope. I've seen people going beyond their call of duty. I've seen doctors working 24/7, nurses working 24/7. I've seen the poorest of the poor giving food, giving shelter to migrant labor. I'm actually deeply delighted about the India, which sadly has come because of a pandemic. What is your feeling of the country today? Let's don't discuss the political bit. I'm saying जो human engagement है, उसका आपका क्या? What do you feel?
Those are agenda-oriented things. I think, and this I'm telling you with all my humility, without sounding anything, that in the next 10 years, India will be the most respected country. I'm not talking about India as a superpower, or I'm not talking about India. India will give directions to the world. It will give the way India has behaved in this pandemic, the way, because हमारा बरसों पुराना सदियों का जो इतिहास है ना सुहेल, इसी वजह से 800 साल तक मुगलों ने हम पर राज किया, 200 साल तक अंग्रेजों ने हम पर राज किया, मगर हमने अपनी मर्यादा, हमने अपना पुरुषार्थ और हमने अपना जो कल्चर है बरकरार रखा है.
करेक्ट.
ये ऐसी ही सिचुएशन में बाहर निकल कर आना है बिना किसी बात के, वरना शायद पता ही नहीं लगता. दिस इज व्हाई आई हैव ग्रेट फीलिंग एंड ग्रेट कॉन्फिडेंस अबाउट द फ्यूचर ऑफ आवर कंट्री.
मैंने तो कहा था एक टीवी प्रोग्राम पे, मैंने कहा इंडिया हैज मूव्ड फ्रॉम अ पैंडेमिक टू अ प्रेमडेमिक. अब प्रेम आ गया हमारे जीवन में. हम अपने परिवार से प्रेम करते हैं, अपने बच्चों से प्रेम करते हैं. वी हैव रीइवैल्यूएटेड आवर रिलेशनशिप्स. तो मैंने वो वर्ड इन्वेंट किया कि इंडिया इज नाउ सफरिंग. Actually, India is not suffering. India is blessed to be part of a prem-demic, not a pandemic.
So brilliantly put. सही बात है ये. मैं अमेरिका गया वापस इस पैंडेमिक और इस लॉकडाउन के बाद. मैं अभी 23 अक्टूबर को गया था. अमेरिका जो कहते हैं, जिसे मतलब I have great respect for that country. It has given me so many things also in terms of my work etc. But देख लो ना आप, घबराहट है लोगों की सड़क पे. आधा न्यूयॉर्क जो है वो साथ वाली स्टेट्स में चला गया है. वो सेम अमेरिका नहीं रहा, सेम न्यूयॉर्क नहीं था वो जिस न्यूयॉर्क पे मैंने 2 साल गुजारे थे. एक डर था. हमारे यहाँ तो कुछ भी कहो यार आप. मैंने जो 8-9 महीने यहाँ रहा, I felt so secure, I felt so peaceful. By the end of these 8 months, I was not wanting to go back. I said यार मेरा देश जो है कमाल का देश है. इसमें नॉट बिकॉज मैं यहाँ लोगों को जानता हूँ या मैं यहाँ लोगों के साथ बड़ा हुआ हूँ. हमारे अंदर एक देने की भावना बहुत है. वी आर गिवर्स.
अरे
हम आपस में हमारी छोटे मोटे इशू आपस में हम लड़ते झगड़ते एक दूसरे को खून कर देंगे, मगर व्हेन इट कम्स टू अ सिचुएशन वी आर एक्चुअली गिवर्स. और हम दुनिया को यही देते आएंगे. हम ज्ञान देंगे, हम प्रेम देंगे, और हम एक सेंस ऑफ कंपैशन देते हैं. वो है ही नहीं. Today, whether you like it or not like, Mr. Modi has emerged as the world leader, the way he is handled, and this was talked to me everywhere. कि यार आपके प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने तो बड़ा अच्छा है, योर प्राइम मिनिस्टर रियली हैंडल द सिचुएशन वेरी वेल, आई मस्ट से दैट.
You're
ये
right, because leadership often makes you do unpopular things.
exactly.
Popular people don't lead, popular people actually follow. It is
How
a
wonderful.
mistake to believe that popular people are leaders.
That's so
Popular
wonderful.
people are following what the common man wants them to do. So they're not
Yes.
leaders, they're actually followers.
Even in real
The
life also.
unpopular part shows great leadership. Ki bhai, I will do it because it is the right thing, not because it's the popular thing.
You see, मैं हमेशा ये कहता हूँ अपने बारे में भी, I'm not interested in being popular, I'm interested in being right.
Correct.
तो जब तो जो लोग हैं ना, जो हमारे को बुरा बोलते हैं या कुछ ट्रोल करते हैं, वो भीड़ का हिस्सा है. वो भीड़
कारवां
में
चलता गया, कुत्ते भौंक रहे हैं, कारवां थोड़ी रुकता है.
करेक्ट, करेक्ट. सो ये देश का फ्यूचर बहुत ब्राइट है, और ये किताब जो निकल के आई है, ये इसी बात से निकल के आई है. और ये किताब इसीलिए डेडिकेटेड इज टू माय मदर, बिकॉज जब हम स्कूल में छोड़ने जाती थी, हम छोटे बच्चे थे, प्राइमरी स्कूल में छोड़ के जाती थी, तो कश्मीरी में बोलती थी, चोन अजरुक दोचु सारने को जान. That means your best days today. She had
Correct.
nothing to give us. She only has something to give, which was in shape of a hope.
But that is what makes you who you are. Your mother planted the seeds of motivation. Your mother planted the seeds of inspiration, which you are now blessed to move forward. I have to say, Anupam, it's been a delightful conversation. I wish we could go on, and one day we will go on and on. It doesn't really matter where.
And
but
thank you for being so nice and generous in your praise of the book, because I wrote to you in Hindi. मैं आपको अंग्रेजी में जवाब देने से ट्विटर पे डरता हूँ, तो मैंने हिंदी में लिखा कि भाई आप पहले ऐसे इंसान हैं जिसकी मैं कदर करता हूँ, जिसने मेरी किताब की तारीफ की है, तो इसको एक अच्छी लीड मिली है. And
no, it's a genuinely good book. I will not even say it's a self-help book. It's a book which helps you chronicle humanity in the times of crisis. It's a very fitting tribute to India's prem-demic. And Sri, from both Anupam and me, thank you to PGurus for having us. Thank you for allowing us to engage in this conversation. Sometimes, Sri, I believe there's more to humanity, there's more to life than politics, than hatred, than discussion. And I think people like Anupam, who are self-made, people like Anupam who've seen the world and yet are so attached and rooted, these are the people that will be the true custodians of India's civilizational treasures. On that note, thank you, Sri. Thank you, Anupam.
Thank you so much, Suhel.
प्रेम डेमिक जिए, प्रेम डेमिक ही चलता रहे, जय हो.
बहुत अच्छा बोला है. प्रेम डेमिक को तो मैं इस्तेमाल करने वाला हूँ, and I will give you always
credit दे दीजिएगा.
देता रहूँगा. Give my love to your family and to your daughter, to Lakshmi, and to your mother especially. Very honor to her, and take care of yourself. And thank you, Sriji. Thank you very much for having me at PGurus. It's been wonderful talking to Suhel. He's always, and I don't know how he manages to come up with the right words. I don't know, in the last sentence that he spoke was so brilliant. Thank you, Suhel. Take care. Lots of love.
Thank you, Ji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sri. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.